Sorry, and also not sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that they rebranded, but I've heard both of the names used. I thought they could be interchangeable, but I mean, everything that I've ever heard about them is very positive and personal experiences too. Like they're just the most well mannered people. Who knows what's happening behind closed doors, of course, but that's the same for anybody.
Now, you wanted to discuss the marketing of these religions. This could go anywhere. Where do you want to start, sir?
Yeah, well, it would be interesting to explore why. Well, maybe I'll ask you what how do you feel about when I say Buddhist?
It's a lot like what you said, calmness. And I think if it comes to marketing the religion, I don't feel as though Buddhists do very much marketing. If you go to maybe an airport in a certain city, or if you go to New Orleans where they're passing out Buddha beads, you don't find Buddhists trying to convert you. You don't really find a bunch of Buddhists knocking on your door. You don't. When's the last time you ever you saw a Buddhist commercial? They don't really market yet. They're super popular.
Yeah, I mean that's true. And we could kind of look at this in a completely in a marketing perspective. Is like in any offer, a lot of times the marketing is what's important, but ultimately is what's the offer. So, and like
Yeah,
we're not religious experts, but maybe the different religions offer different things, and so you have to market it differently. You can't really be pushy if you're a Buddhist, whereas maybe as a Christian you can be a little bit pushier and say like here's what we offer and this is why we're doing this. Same thing probably with Muslim. Mormon, it's like you're in it and you can't leave it and deal with it, but at the same time it's okay. So the offer counts.
I think the offer here in Buddhism, and I'm not saying that there's no religion that's greater than the other. I'm not saying that. I'm saying from an offer perspective, I think Buddhism wins here because you can practice elements of Buddhism like meditation, mindfulness, and be a Mormon or be a Christian. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with my homeboy who's a Mormon, and he's doing a form of meditation. I forgot what it's called. It's that when you have one word, transcendental. I messed that word up, but he's doing that. Devout Mormon, but he's meditating for 40 minutes a day, 2 20-minute sessions. So in this offer, you can take elements of this religion, yet still have your religion. Whereas if you're a Mormon, you don't find Hindus practicing parts of Mormonism.
Yeah, and maybe some of them don't really want to be spread necessarily that wide, because maybe it's more difficult to follow. They don't expect people, or it might not appeal to a broad audience. Like there's not that many Mormons in the world. There's not that many Jewish in the world, but there are a lot of Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. And I wonder, it, based on the offer, is it just more limiting and not necessarily has to do with the marketing?
That's a really good point. And there's another thought that I had. This might offend somebody, and if it does, well, then maybe you should think about it. I live in the South, surrounded by Christians. There's a church and a liquor store anywhere I go, right? Anywhere, good or bad neighborhood, they're all around. I will meet a Christian, like my business partner, who is devout, walks it like he talks it. He is a Christian, right? More often than not, the everyday Christian I run into around here in the South will slap a cross on their car or their RV. They might wear a cross chain or something like that. They don't go to church. They don't read the Bible, but it's all about Christians and Christianity. And nothing in their life reflects that. Whereas when I meet a Mormon or somebody in the Latter day Saint community, more often than not, they read their Book of Mormon. They follow the values. They follow the system. There's more adherence. So when somebody says they're in the Church of Latter Day Saints, they seem to be more congruent with that in their lifestyle. Whereas the everyday Christian here in the South, they say they're a Christian, and I don't see anything about Christ in their life. So going back to from a marketing standpoint, just the product itself, looking at a religion as a product, in my opinion, that Mormon product looks a lot stronger than the Christian product as far as what happens when I meet the everyday Mormon and Christian.
Yeah, and well, it's talking about it from a results perspective of a religion, or from any offer for that matter. It's so can you get your offer? Can you get the marketing going? Is the offer actually good? And then once somebody takes your offer, course, membership, in this case a religion, what is the ultimate result? And do you have social proof that it works? In terms of modern Christianity in the United States, it does seem like, in many cases, the idea, or no, I'm trying to figure out how to say this properly. It's like people are actually marketing themselves by borrowing the credibility of Christianity without committing to the accountability of Christianity. And that's become acceptable in Christianity in the US in today's day and age. Whereas, like you said, in Mormonism, you you can't borrow that credibility without committing to it, because probably the membership will call you out on it. And that's what makes them unique. And that's why fewer people can rise to that occasion.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's actually a cool point. And like we're in the worlds of memberships and communities. You take a certification of something, now you're in this community, or masterminds, and it's all community. And there's just so many different parts and layers to having a community. Is you can say that you're a part of that community, which is valuable, as long as that community is perceived to be valuable by others, so you can leverage it to increase your status. Then there's the actual benefit of being in the community. In the case of religions, I guess the idea would be to live a more, for lack of a better word, a more godly life, or a proper life. So if you're actually following the tenets of it, you're going to arguably live a proper life. And then what's the ultimate result? Like, are you happy with the result that you get? I guess those are the three that I can think of. And yeah, the different religions that you've prompted me with, they have strengths in different ways. Like, yeah, a Christian is more about the saying I'm part of the group.
I agree. I love what you said about you can't claim, it's harder to claim Mormonism without it being evident in your life than it is with Christianity. And that might be part of the challenge from a just outsider looking in. But those are my thoughts on that.
Okay, well, that was pretty deep. And religion is such a like, knowing what I know, which is not a lot, I will say. Although I've been to church and synagogue, and I visited mosques. I've seen Mormon temples. I haven't been inside. I've read several books, and I can't, but I still feel like I only know less than 1% of it about any of this. But it's certainly interesting topics, and how. Yeah, I bet they have marketing like churches have marketing budgets to get. And this goes into another thing, is like, what are the incentives for a church? The incentive is not necessarily to convert you, just the same way as in a government organization, the incentive is not necessarily to do what's best for the constituents. It's to stay in power, grow power, or to be reelected. And same thing in a church is arguably the goal of the pastor or whoever's leading it, or the board of directors of a church, is to increase fundraising, continue their staying on the board or staying as the leader of a church, and then the secondary results are like having some influence on the community. So incentives matter.
Church is absolutely market. I had a meeting with a guy Wednesday. His whole business is marketing for churches. That's his whole business, right? And these mega churches don't become mega churches by chance. Joel Osteen doesn't do his thing that he's doing or has done by chance. And then you're right. The preacher is there. You're going to have, I don't care what it is, whether what job it is, what business you own, or if you're a preacher or whatever, you're going to find good and bad people in all these different dynamics. Um, but with the preacher, there's going to, whether, he's a good or bad one, you're looking at LTV. You need people to be coming every Sunday and donating. I mean, you got bills to pay, right? And you're going to have some preachers who are so looking at an offer perspective. They're so compassionate and they care about what they do and they're so good. That's the offer right there, right? Their passionate sermons week over week will bring people back because that preacher believes in it, where you'll have another preacher who's just trying to bring people in to get money, right? So
Yeah,
it's an offer.
and I also want to just note that that's how any organization has to operate. I mean, you take any nonprofit for that matter, you're going to have really good nonprofits out there and they have to do marketing. That's the thing. It's like a lot of people say, well, I don't want to donate to that nonprofit because in their disclosures, they're showing that they're spending 50% on marketing and another 25% on operations. Like, well, I mean, if they don't market, they're not going to have any word out. They have no. If they can't pay people, it's going to be a house of cards that collapses. So these are necessary evils, so to speak. So even in the case of a church, it may be ultimately a good thing for the people and the community around it if the right people are running it with proper intentions. And just another thing, that what you just said really resonated with me, because this is how I think Christians are failing at marketing.